OFPG Voices is brought to you by the following sponsors. Calliope Games, publisher of Roll For It, Suro, and Enchanted Plumes. They publish tabletop games for players of all ages and skill levels. Their games are crafted to inspire laughter and fun. Board&Dice. Board&Dice designs and publishes family and strategy board games. Two of their most recent releases, Origins First Builders and Mandala Stones. They recently announced their Ally program, primarily aimed at welcoming and supporting people of color and the LGBTQ+ community in the hobby. Rose Gauntlet Entertainment, publisher of the upcoming game Keystone North America, available on pre-order. Rose Gauntlet Entertainment believes that games are for everyone and that their greatest purpose is to bring people together. Bezier Games, publisher of Maglev Metro. Being released this summer, Cat in the Box. It is sure to be the trick-taking game of the year. Available for pre-order now at BezierGames.com. And Sink or Swim. It's a co-op game that even the most non-co-op gamers enjoy, as you rally your team to perform at their best. Late pledges still available. Game Pathways, a nonprofit founded by game professionals with the shared goal of a more diverse and inclusive industry. Game Pathways is building career resources and learning materials for underrepresented students, supported with scholarships and an in-person learning event this fall at UCLA. A number of companies have already pledged their support to Game Pathways. And whether you are an individual or a publisher, there are a lot of ways you can help. Learn more at gamepathways.org. Renegade Games, publisher of Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid, and a family favorite, Clank, a deck-building adventure. And after being sold out many times over the past 2 years, finally back in stock, The Search for Planet X. To see an entire catalog, visit renegadegames.com. Hi everybody, I'm Starla.
I'm Mick.
And we are
Our Fan Plays Games. Voices, yeah!
So, we're on episode 10.
And it's a May thing.
It's a May thing.
It's a May thing, yeah!
So we're going to talk about things going on in the month of May.
Yes.
All the different celebrations.
Yes.
Things we want to remember and highlight.
What's going on?
May.
Yes,
the
May.
month of May.
That's May. Love it.
So, we've got some great segments this week because our contributors came with it.
They came hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, of course, we've got Amanda Panda with Panda Talk.
The Panda Boogie Baby.
And she's going to be talking to Twitch content creator Jess.
Love Jess.
About their top 3 games in May.
Yes, yes.
And then after that, we're going to learn how to play with Aaron from GameEnthus.
Yes.
He's going to be celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with the game Onatama.
Yes, yes. And Starla, wait till you see the different players he have this month.
Okay.
Yes.
Can't wait to see that.
Woo! Yes, yes, yes.
And then next up is going to be Designer's Corner with Fertessa Allyse.
Yes.
And she's going to talk about the next steps in creating your first board game with your first prototype.
And she's telling y'all some gold, y'all, so y'all better listen. If you want to make your first board game, listen to her now.
Yeah,
listen.
She's giving you some information.
She's dropping some knowledge.
She's dropping it.
Yes.
And last but not least, we're going to have Talking Games with Maggie, Megan, and Chris from We're Playing Games.
Whoa!
And they're going to celebrate Mental Health Month.
And they did a great job. Great job. Because Megan is in the healthcare field. Yeah, she is in that. So it's going to be really cool.
So
really
like we said, it's a May thing. So buckle up, everybody.
But first, we have Starla with Good Humans.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another segment of Good Humans. This week, we're going to talk about empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Empathy differs from sympathy, as empathy involves putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Sympathy involves understanding from your own personal perspective. Empathizing when someone else is hurting, struggling, or just having a difficult time is being a good human. As our country once again faces terror from within, empathy is needed. Support is needed, and a resolution is needed. We can't just sympathize. We can't just say, oh, this is what happens to those people. We have to empathize and put ourselves in someone else's shoes. How would we feel if this was happening to our community or to people that we know? Empathy is just one more step to being a good human, being an ally, or being an accomplice. And as we always say here at OFPG Voices, our goal is just to make this world a better place, one board gamer at a time.
Welcome everyone to Panda Talks. On this episode, I'm joined by my good friend Jess from Community Connections Gaming. Woo woo. Hi Jess.
Hi Panda, so glad to be here. Hello everyone.
Yay! On this episode, we're going to talk about our top 3 games that we played in May so far, because there's still some May left. My list is going to be completely random. I am not going to, rank them within the list.
They're not top 3, friends. It's just 3 games.
Yes, exactly. Our 3 games from May. So why don't I go ahead and start? We are going to start with Nidivellir and Thingvellir. So those of you who don't know, Jess joined me on my stream to play this over our physical copies, so we mirrored each other. It was a lot of fun, and basically what this game is, it is a blind bidding. So basically we have chits in our hand, coins, and we are putting it on the 3 taverns to bid for who gets the chance to recruit these dwarves into our tableau, and we flip over a coin. Whoever the highest gets the dwarf first, and so forth and so forth. And we're trying to get set collections, so collections of the same color, aka faction, or collections of different colors, because when you get 5 different colors, then you get to recruit a hero, which could cause you to recruit another hero, and so forth. And it's combo-ish that way. It's only 2 acts. It is probably 6 to 8 rounds at most, and it is a lot of fun. Thingvellir adds in more heroes, a camp where you can recruit from as well, and it's really fun. It's really kind of cool. What did you think, Jess?
I absolutely love this game. I prefer it at a higher player count because there is more like strategy involved instead of like direct take that action.
Yes.
But I have both the physical copy of Nidivellir and Thingvellir expansion, so I will definitely be keeping this around for a while.
Yeah, and those of you who do not know, there is kind of a take that in. You can draft what someone needs to get a hero, which I kind of did to Jess. But, most of the time people, draft so that they can complete their own sets. And 2-player, there's a little bit more of a hate draft. With multiplayer, because it goes all the way up to 5, it can, mitigate that, but it's also more chaotic in what you would get. So that is my number 1. What's your number 1, Jess?
So, speaking of armies and recruiting and things, my top 1 is a chunky roll and write called Hadrian's Wall.
Whoa, yes.
I'm showing you all how big it is compared to my head, because it's just, there's a lot going on in this game. And I actually got to teach Panda how to play this game on my stream. And so basically, friends, what you're doing is you are recruiting different resources, and with those resources you activate different parts of your city, like building your walls, gathering armies, putting on shows. And the more places that you play these workers or these servants or these civilians, that kind of thing, the more extra actions you're able to do for the future turns. There's also defense that you have to make sure that you're defending against a warring army. And so there's a lot going on these 2 sheets of paper, but it's definitely one of those games that I feel like it needs to take at least a few games under your belt before you can get the hang of the strategy. So, Panda, what did you think of your first game of this?
I was overwhelmed. But it's great because it has like actual meeples and resources, like physical bits that you can keep track of what you get, because you have to turn in workers and to get other workers and resources and stuff like that. So it really helps with that. But it is a lot to take in for your first game, but I really enjoyed it. I look forward to playing it more. Yeah. Speaking of a roll and write, my next game is a flip and write. Welcome to the Moon. Welcome to the Moon is the newest iteration of Welcome to. This one's from Blue Crocker Games, and basically it is cards. You get a set of 3 different cards that flip over to do a set of a card and a symbol. You're going to take those numbers on the cards to fill in your maps from left to right in ascending order, and you're trying to either finish missions or aka plans and get the most points. Now, the base game Welcome to has a lot of different maps in it that uses the exact same cards. It has everything from ice cream trucks to, to I think like turnarounds, and there is a spooky Halloween version, and it's really cool. And then they have a second standalone game called Welcome to Las Vegas. This is the 3rd standalone game, Welcome to the Moon, and this one's different in that you can have a little bit of a campaign. So you can play through a campaign mode that builds on top of the other one that allows you to get more stuff and more abilities, and it's really cool. You can play the maps standalone, which is what I have done so far, and it has a little bit of a storyline, and so I am excited to play more of this game. It's a great game. If you play just the base game or Vegas or Welcome to the Moon, all of them are quite fun. Isn't that right, Jess?
Yes, absolutely adore Welcome to the Moon. I have almost all the Welcome to things. The original, some of the expansions, Las Vegas. I have the moon. It's just give it to me. It's one of those, like, those memes where it's like they're throwing money out the window. It's like whenever I see something new from Welcome to, that's me right there. So yeah, this is a fantastic game.
Absolutely. So what's your number 2 game?
My second game that I want to talk about is a small little box game, kind of scaling down on the player size here, but it is Scout.
Yes.
From Point Games. This is a trick-taking game with a little bit of extra flavor to it, in that the cards themselves have 2 different numbers on them. So on one side, it could be one number, and then you flip it 180, and it could be a totally different number. And it's basic trick-taking. However, you can only play cards in the order in which they are displayed in your hand. So once you get them dealt to your hand, kind of like in the game Bonanza, you have your cards splayed out, and you have the decision before the round starts whether you want them to be displayed in this orientation, or you can flip the whole hand 180 to have them display in the other orientation. And the goal is to try to get rid of your cards, win tricks, gather points, and you play a number of rounds based upon the number of players that you're playing. I got to learn this game at Dice Tower West and absolutely adored it. And so we picked up a copy, and I have tried to get it to the table every time I have some friends or family visiting. I got to teach this over Mother's Day, and it was an instant hit. So every time I bring it to the table, it just goes over really well. So have you ever played this one, Panda?
Yes, I love it. Eric Yoko taught it to me last year at PAX Unplugged. I played it again with Brandon Jar. I played it at Dice Tower West. I played it multiple times. I need a copy for my own. I love trick-taking games, and so this one's really, really fun. So I hope to get a copy soon. It is kind of crazy on your brain, though, because you can't move the cards at all. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. For my last game, I am playing Project L, y'all. For those of you who don't know, this is a polyomino game. What does that mean? You use Tetris pieces to fill in puzzles. The puzzles are dual layer boards, so you can actually slot in the pieces that are plastic pieces into it, and it's really, really cool tactilely. And it's a fun game. It plays all the way from solo all the way to 6 players, which is what we played when I taught Jess. It's kind of crazy and chaotic 6 player because you have 2 people playing at the same time, but it's a lot of fun. I love puzzle games. I love Tetris style games, so this one was a big hit for me.
Yeah, I love polyomino games, Panda, but yes, at 6 players, it was chaotic.
So what's your last game, Jess?
So my last game is a game that I wanted to highlight because 1, I love roll and writes, and 2, I think a lot of times, sometimes in the board gaming industry, we don't give enough representation in board gaming, whether it's with design or with artwork or with publishing or anything like that. So my final game I want to talk about today is a game that was designed and published in Mexico, and it's called Ofrendados, El Camino a Mictlan, which translates to offering the road to Mictlan. And in this game, you're basically doing the theme around the Day of the Dead, which is celebrated around the end of October, beginning of November. And it is about representing culture in Mexico where you celebrate those that have passed, family members and friends. And you do that in terms of presenting them with an offering or an altar that has candles and flowers and pictures representing them and food. So you have this game, you're rolling dice and actually drawing out your offering or your altar to add these certain objects and these items to the display so you can welcome in those family members and friends that have parted. There is also a map of the street of Mictlan where you're placing flowers, because also in tradition you are actually making a flower trail from the cemetery or from where the people are buried leading to your home or to where you're having the celebration. And so it's an actual representation, and the copy that I got from the Kickstarter has a deluxe version where you have actual felt flowers that you're placing on the player board.
It's so
very
cool.
Beautiful. It's very vibrant. There is a lot of strategy that goes into this game, because not only are you drafting dice to draw certain objects into your altar, but there's also a element where you can purchase cards which allow you either to sabotage your players by having them erase something off their altar, or adding something additional to your altar, or adding another flower to the streets. And it's just a well representation of something that is traditionally important to people of Mexico. And I thought, what better way than a game that's actually designed and published by people from that heritage.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So that is the end of our top 3 games, not in any ranked order of games we've played in May 2022. If you want, please follow me under Panda Angel on Twitch and Twitter and all the socials, and also follow Jess. Jess streams on Monday and Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Most of the time it is games. You can play along with her in the chat on her Twitch stream under the handle Jess_CCG, and on Wednesdays you can play in the tournament. This month it is Can't Stop Express, and you can win a bag of swag from the CCG crew, aka Jess.
Yes, friends, and I ship internationally, I ship worldwide, so I know those both kind of synonymous terms, but yeah, don't let where your physical location deter you from playing along, so please, please, please join if you can.
Yes. Thank you, Jess, for being here. Thank you all. Have a great week.
Hey, I'm Aaron from GameEnthus.com, and it is May. May is also Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and I thought about the term Hanami, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which translates to flower viewing. So Hanami is a traditional Japanese custom of enjoying the beauty of flowers. The practice of Hanami is not new, and it is still done today. So in tying it to a game, the game that came to mind for me was Ohanami, which is a 2 to 4 player game from Pandasaurus Games. And it's a game where players are trying to create the best gardens, not only using flowers and blossoms, but also water features and stone. Let me show you how it plays. Okay, these are the major components in Ohanami. Pretty much it's comprised of cards and some scoring sheets. I used to have a lot more of them, but we kept playing this game. You're gonna have a deck of 120 cards. There's 116 in this deck right now, mainly because there's 4 down here on the table. So you're gonna have blue cards, green cards, gray cards, and pink cards. The art can be different between them. Just an example. So this one you have slightly different art, but they're still blue. It's the color that is important, and the number, really. Well, both. So different art, but the color will be consistent between blue, green, gray, and pink. You're going to have 34 blue, 35 green, only 17 gray, and 34 pink, adding up to 120 different cards. So in Ohanami, players are going to be constructing 3 different gardens. And a garden is essentially a chain of vertical cards. But placement is key in those chains because you're only able to place things above and beneath the cards that are already in the garden. So let's just pretend this was a garden. I could place 110 above 112. I could place 4 above 110 or something beneath 112, but I can't go in between. So when 111 comes up, I can't use it because I've already placed 110. And that's really the trick of the game is if you would probably never want to skip 106 numbers between 110 and 104, but let's say you did. You're inevitably going to have cards that you wish you could place in that garden, but you can't put this in here because you can't put anything in between what's there. Only something less than the lowest, more than the most. So if you had this, it could not go anywhere. You'd have to either build another garden or attempt to put it into another garden that you currently had going. And that feeds directly into how the scoring works. So in round 1, you're only going to score the blue cards. You see a little droplet. So even if people who do have some color perception and color blindness, they're going to be able to hopefully look at the iconography on all the cards. You have the water drop, the plant, the rock, and the cherry blossom here. So how the scoring pad works is in round 1, you're only scoring the blue cards, and they're worth 3 points each. In round 2, you're scoring the blue cards for 3 and the green cards for 4 points. And then in round 3, you're scoring blues for 3, greens for 4, grays for 7, and then pink has its own scoring track down here. So for every pink card you have, let's say you had 6 of them, you would score 21 points at the end of the game. This game primarily is about drafting cards. So let me just show you what a round might look like for 2 players. And it'll play similarly for 3 or 4. It does play between 2 to 4 players. Let me show you how it works. So each round, each player would get 10 cards. And each player can look at their 10 cards. I'd be remiss if I didn't continue the tradition. Player 1 is going to be this 3-ounce, yes, you can take it through airport security, small container of moisturizing hand sanitizer. And player 2 is going to be this small tube of Jergens Ultra Healing Extra Dry Skin Moisturizer. So player 1, player 2, player 1, player 2. You get the idea. So this game relies heavily on card drafting, which means whatever cards you take, you're going to be passing the rest of that hand to the other players. So in a 3 or 4 player game, you're passing it around clockwise. In a 2-player game, you can do some hate drafting if you want, but I tend to err more on the side of let me help myself out as opposed to hurting my opponent, but you can do whatever you want. So player 1 looks at their cards here, and now you're only going to score the blue cards in round 1. You're going to score blue and green in round 2, and then in round 3 you're going to score all 4. And grays are worth 7. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Gray cards are going to be worth 7 points. 7. So blues are 3, greens are 4, grays are 7, and pink kind of scale up. But they can add up quite nicely. Let's say player 1's going to choose 20 and 22. And they're going to create that as a single garden. Player 2 is going to take 25 and 27. So in a 2-player game, it's a little bit different because you're going to be very familiar with what the cards are because you'll be looking at the same decks kind of repeatedly. Okay, and the next turn, let's say player 1's going to take 7. And I think the highest number is like 120, 123, somewhere around there. So player 1 has made decisions, and these are going to be their 3 gardens. They're going to be adding cards to these 3. So they've locked it in. So player 2 is going to take a 4 for another garden and a 112, for another garden. One's going to take that 10, and they're going to take a 12. So player 2 is going to take an 11. I really don't want to go from 112 to 88, but I'll just show you just for an example. Probably not what you want to do, but I guess it could be worse. And then they're going to switch. And that will be the entire first round. And then you bring the score pad out. And in round 1, every player is going to get 3 points for every blue card they have between all their gardens. So player 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 4 blue cards. 4 times 3 is 12. So player 1 now has 12 points in round 1. Player 2 only has 2 blue cards, so they're going to have 6. You tie that up on the scorecard, and then the cards that were removed from the game are going to stay removed. They're not going to come back out. Take the rest of the deck, deal each player 10 cards, and repeat the process. But then the difference is in round 2, you're going to be scoring up green and blue, so you can double up on your blue. So player 1 knows they're going to get 12 points in round 2 for their blues automatically, at least, because they already have 12 points. Player 2 knows they're going to get at least 6 points for their blues in round 2 if they don't add any more, because they already have 6 now. But they'd also be scoring up their greens. And that's how Ohanami works. And that was Ohanami from Pandasaurus Games. Once again, I'm Aaron from GameEnthus.com. And if you play Ohanami or any other game, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching.
Hello. This is Fertessa Allyse, and today I want to talk about taking that next step when making your very first board game. Last time I talked about finding that magic moment and establishing what the core of your board game is. Today, I want to talk about actually making that first physical prototype. I think that it's very easy to get in our own heads about making the first prototype, whether it's your actual first or it's just the first of a new game you've created. There's almost an imposter syndrome that happens because your idea doesn't feel worth wasting resources on, even though that's exactly what you bought it for. So today is more about getting out of your head and just getting started in the prototyping process. And by doing that, we are going to be creating a found prototype. What is that? That is going to be making a prototype based off of the things that you find in your apartment or your home. So 5 steps, that is 10, 5 steps to making your first prototype. Let's go. Step 1. Go around your house and find a bunch of bits. If you're lucky enough, you already have a bin of bits that you've collected. I've gone to different board game conventions, and often companies will just have samples of their products out for people to take for free. And whenever I go to these conventions, I usually take a couple of them and I just put them in my bin of bits. So I can make a prototype wherever I am and not have to scavenge through my actual board games. Now, if you do not have a bin of bits, I suggest you scavenge through your own board games or use bits that are lying around. They don't have to be actual, meeples. They can be pennies. They could be paper clips, whatever. Just as long as you have a lot of them, go for it. I mean, I don't recommend push pins or anything that could hurt you, but otherwise, the world is your tomato. Yeah. So, moving on. Something that is super useful to have, and if you don't have this in your home, I do recommend buying that, is a pair of dice. The dice are really easy ways to jumpstart your prototype. You can equivocate what you need them for. Maybe you don't need the exact numbers, maybe you want symbols. You could just take a sheet of paper and say, hey, the number 3 is actually a star, and the number 5 is a skull and crossbones, and so forth. Another good thing to have, and I think most people would have this in their homes, but if not, spend $3 and get it, a deck of cards. Now, I have a beautiful deck of cards from Beth Sobel that she just recently released, so they look fabulous. But any deck of cards will do. And the reason you want a deck of cards is, depending on the game that you're making, deck of cards is already pre-sorted into different suits. So if you're making a set collection game, you have 4 different suits, and you have 13 cards in each suit. So whether you need the cards for numbers, or whether you are trying to collect a certain something, instead of having to sit there and cut out blank cards or write on blank cards that you may have already purchased, you can just use what's there and, similar to the dice, equivocate and say, oh, these spades are going to be treasure maps, and the hearts are going to be pirates. I don't know, just riffing. Now, you've grabbed a bunch of bits and hopefully a notebook, because notebooks can be anything. You can rip up papers so they can be more bits, or you can use it to create a temporary game board, whatever. But the next thing is, remember why you love the game that you had the magic moment about. For me, I'm going to use the sloth game as an example that I mentioned in the last segment. I love sloths. They're super freaking cute. I don't know why you wouldn't love a sloth. And if I made a game about sloths, it would be about how cute they are. So immediately I'm racking my brain, okay, how do I make a game that shows how cute sloths are? I need art. I need cards. So much surface for art on cards. So maybe we are collecting little sloths, little sloth families, and we are creating these families to score points. You know, maybe once we've gathered the family, we'll take them to the nature preserve and they'll wash the little sloths with their cute little faces. So, yes, that's the game. Now, step 3 is walk through the first turn of your game. And you might be like, Fertessa, how could I even do that? We don't really have a game. This is going to be improv. And bear with me, because I'm going to improv right in front of you. But when you're walking through your first turn of the game, really, you're just kind of feeling out what's fun about your idea. Like, you've theorized what's fun about it, but now's the time to actually just blindly feel your way through this game that doesn't exist yet. So in the example of sloths, I have established that I want to collect sloth families. If I'm collecting sloth families, I should probably be collecting a certain suit, because there are 4 of them. So let's say that I am trying to collect spades particularly, and this star is going to be a spade, and I'm going to write it down so that I don't have to remember that. And let's say my opponent, who is also me, is collecting diamonds, and that's their little pawn. Okay, cool. Now we know what we're going for. And I should literally write that down. Spades and diamonds. Okay. The next step. Okay, I have my cards. I know what I'm collecting. And I just have the deck in front of me. But how do we get these cards? Since cards are kind of static and you just draw them and they are what they are, then maybe a little bit of randomness with these dice. So I'm gonna roll the dice. And I'm like, okay, I rolled really well. What do I do with that? Why would rolling die be fun with like a deck of cards where I can't even see what the cards are. Okay. Well, I rolled a 5 and a 6. So let's say, since I'm collecting cards, that I'm choosing what number of cards to reveal and what number of cards to take. I will reveal 6. Okay. And I gotta tell you, none of them are cards that I can use so far. Oh, there's one. Okay, great. And now I'm gonna take 5. I'm gonna take these, and the other 2 will just be, I don't know, I'll hate draft because I don't want you to get a diamond, and I'll do this. And now I have these cards in my hand, and I'm wondering, okay, what next? What's cool? How do I score these? Well, it would be boring just to say, I'm scoring these now, so maybe there's a hand limit. Maybe when I reach 7 cards, I automatically have to score my hand. And that's bad, because if I did something like draw 5 cards, that means I'm scoring next turn automatically. But if I have cards in my hand that I can't score, then that's gonna suck. I don't know. Okay. So I will keep going back and forth with that with my opponent, and oh maybe there's rounds, because we don't want to go through the entire deck. That's weird. So maybe there's only 4 rounds and this is round 1. So it's a nice short game. And you're just trying to collect the most points you can in a short game. Okay. So let's just say theoretically we've gone through all 4 turns. I have turned in my cards, my different sets, and oh, surprise, I win. I win the game. That's a really great moment for me. Okay. Now we move on to step 4, which is write down what works. I definitely enjoyed rolling the dice and using them to determine, how many resources got revealed and how many resources I took. That was fun. I got confused when resources I didn't need ended up in my hand. What am I supposed to do with that? How do I make that into a strategy, rather than just having dead weight in my hand? How do I give myself more choices? So this is the point where you write down questions that came up, moments that you actually found were fun, and moments that were not fun. And then step 5, you iterate. You go over your notes, maybe customize your bits a bit to kind of go along with the gameplay more, make it more fun. Maybe you add a rule or 2 to see if that addresses the problems from the last time, and then you go on to the next one. And just like that, you have made your first prototype. It's not supposed to be this big wall that you're going over, because when it comes to making a board game, you're playing the long game. So you need to get your toes wet immediately. You need to just go right in and start creating. It doesn't have to make sense. Again, I just improv'd in front of you. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I did find something that was fun about my sloth games before I got cute sloth art. So, I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that this gets you to the next stage of making your very first board game. All right, have a good one.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, happy May, friends.
Happy May.
Most of
family.
Ooh.
You're so right, babe. It's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Oh.
Which should be important to you, but it's definitely important to me because I work in the mental health field. So we're here to talk to you today about board games and mental health and how they work together and what that's all about. And hopefully if you're here and you're watching this video already, you probably already think, yeah, board games. Good for mental health. We're gonna talk today about board games and how you can use playing board games when you yourself are struggling with mental health, which can look like a lot of different things. Doesn't have to look like the worst day of your life. Struggling with mental health doesn't have to look like a specific diagnosis or specific. Yes.
Can it look like the worst day of your life?
It totally can. It totally can.
We want to do is help you pick the best board game based on like the kind of self-care you do when you're having a bad day.
Totally. Self-care is not one size fits all, and one board game is not going to solve every bad day that you're having.
But if it did, it would be called War of the Rings.
We'll get there. So I'll start us off.
Okay.
When I'm having a bad mental health day, I really love co-op games. Because it allows me to outsource my thinking to other people. I don't have to figure out my whole strategy on my own, and then I'm losing, and then I'm in an even worse mood because I'm very competitive, and then it's a spiral, and it's a whole thing. Co-op games allow me to talk with other players, plan together. It also helps me ask for help, which can be really important if you're having a bad mental health day. Sometimes I can shut myself totally on my own. And a co-op game forces me to remember that there are other people that might have skills that are better than mine to help me when I need it, and I have to ask for it or else the game won't win. I've chosen Mansions of Madness as my official recommendation because I think that it takes that even a step further. Not only am I not having to think about the game and the specific strategy just to myself because I'm getting to plan with my other players, but this game is run by an app. So
app assisted.
So I don't even have to really think about like how to set up the game or how to run the monsters or anything like that. This is a game from Fantasy Flight. If you've played Arkham Horror or Eldritch Horror, it's going to feel very similar. It has very similar themes and characters and stories, and we love those games too. So this is a way for me to play those games that I already love and have to think about even less of it, but still feel immersed enough to have a great time.
I like how your wind down game is about like horrifying monsters
taking over
scrambling your
universe.
Mind. Thinking about the Cthulhu monsters in this game helps remind me that there are worse things than the monsters in my own head.
Yeah, there could be like dog men coming to bite your ankle.
Puts things in perspective. So all things, if you're someone who's like me and you don't like thinking when you're having a bad mental health day, play a co-op game.
When I have a bad day, I listen to Charlie Brown songs and mope around, and then I play a solo game. Woo! This is not a strictly solo game. This is Pandasaurus's Trek 12, which is a roll and write. But I really like the way roll and writes and flip and writes play solo because it is still something that's concrete and tactile enough to sort of like distract me and get me away from screens and that kind of stress. But it is not so complicated that I have to run the game. I don't like running automations. I don't like running an opponent, really. So roll and writes hit a really juicy spot for me. I can't tell you the number of times we've been watching a movie and I've been playing Trek 12 by myself in the corner because it feels
in the corner
because it feels like a really juicy tactile distraction, basically.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me because this is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm saying not every person's going to need the same kind of game. For me, playing a solo game if I'm having a bad mental health day is like literally the opposite of what I just said that I wanted, even though I love this game. So I think
it's like doing like crossword puzzles, kind of. It's like just doing a little puzzle game.
When I'm having a rough day and when the world seems like it's all stacked up against me,
it's okay.
Thank you.
It's okay.
You like to feel like you can have a positive impact on your own life. That's why I like to play engine builder games.
Ooh.
Games where it feels like my inputs have actual
outputs.
Actual outputs. So that's why I'm picking Splendor, very popular, very known game. But Splendor has a very satisfying little arc to it where you're doing work at the beginning to lay down the right like mines so that way you can buy better cards later until you can win by having just like the most productive kind of tableau in front of you. I picked Splendor because it's also a very short version of these games. Like I like a lot of other similar kind of builder engine builder games. But
Keyflower.
Yeah, but like I don't always
Brass.
have 2 or 3 hours to sit down. So Splendor is something easy to get on the table and also easy for me to feel like I'm in control of the game. I feel like I'm good at this game.
Not as good as me.
Yeah, no, that's still. I guess we gotta battle it out right after we shoot this to see who's the true winner. But I think a game like this, to make yourself feel like you have a little more control or having like a spiral out of control kind of day, if you can sit down, spend 30 minutes to like complete a task and feel accomplished at the end, I think just gives you one small win in a really tough day.
These are our favorite games to play when we're having a bad day. But I would love, shout out in the comments, I would love to hear in the comments what games you play.
That'll help her with her next bad day.
When you're having a bad day, and why. Because again, I think that the more mindful you're being about the choices you're making when you're doing something for your self-care, the more you're going to get out of it. So the next time you want to play a game and you're having a bad day, ask yourself what is making that day bad and what game mechanic can replace that. You know what else we're doing? We're
playing games.
Woohoo! Another great episode.
Didn't they do it?
They always do.
Didn't they do it?
Because it's a May thing.
Yes, it's a May thing. And they did it.
Yes, they did.
They did it. As always, contributors be coming hard.
They come hard.
And we love them all.
Yes, we
love
do.
them all. Yes, we do.
And we got to thank our awesome sponsors.
Sponsors just keep coming.
Thank you for riding with us.
Yes. Thank you so much for just being on this journey with us and supporting this very good thing.
Yes.
Because this is a very good thing. And we do need it in this hobby.
Yes, we
for
do.
sure. Now, Starla, what about our merch?
Well, if you're looking for OFPG Voices shirts, you can find them on Spring.
Yes.
We've got our great logo shirts. And if you want some Our Family Plays Games merch, you can find that there too.
All right. And Starla, you know we're on this march to 20,000K.
Yes.
For our subscribers, for our YouTube channel.
Yes.
But first, they gotta find us. So where can they find OFPG Voices up out here?
Well, if you're looking for Our Family Plays Games and OFPG Voices, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and right here on YouTube.
Right here. And now, family, thank you so much for coming and seeing these voices being lifted up and just giving out some great stuff, because they do a great job and we love them all. And now, the next episode will be out June 8th.
Yes.
So look out for it. The next episode, June 8th. But keep coming with the comments. Come on with the, the questions and anything that you might have, because we just love talking to you guys. But the last thing, and the one thing we want you to always know, we love y'all.
Bye, everybody.